What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as you tune in and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I was recently listening to the Skap attack, right? And he was trying to say that the Joker, Nikola Jokic, is should be the MVP of the league this year, right? Which I disagree with, and lately a lot of people have been trying to give Joker like more credit than what I think he deserved. And so, because the OKC Thunder didn't have Shea and they blew out who they blew out. They blew out the Utah Jazz, without Shea. And so he's using that to argue the case that they don't even really need to the OKC Thunder don't even really need Shea and they'll still be great, a really good team. He's saying that they will still win like 50 games, and Shea is not the one carrying that team. So because the Joker is carrying Denver, that means that the Joker is, more valuable to his team than Shea, right? I wouldn't argue that. Maybe the Joker is more valuable to. I don't think the Joker is more valuable to his team than what Shea is, right? But you want to be if you OKC, you want to be able to beat teams like the Utah Jazz who are not really all that good without your best player. You want to be able to beat those teams, right? And so if the Nuggets was playing the Utah Jazz, I bet without the Joker, they probably would beat them too. If they had everybody else on their team besides the Joker, they probably would beat them too, right? But this and who was it? Van Gundy. I'm not sure if it was Stan Van. I think it was Stan Van Gundy was saying that he think that the Joker is like one of the best players in history. So it's going to get to a point where you don't. I don't even have to argue those points because they silly, right? You have a guy in the Joker who only plays at one end of the court. You know, he's not a defender at all. And he's very ball dominant. So no way you can play on half of the court and be better than somebody who's exceptional at playing on both sides of the court, somebody like Shea. So, and it's getting to the point, like I said, where you have OKC, you got two-way players on OKC. Then you have two-way players on the Houston Rockets. You got Kevin Durant, Amen Thomas. Those guys are two-way players, right? Then you have Detroit Pistons. You got Cade Cunningham, excellent offensive basketball player, and also straps up on defense. So when people get used to seeing those kind of basketball players who play at both ends of the court, and then you try to make the argument that somebody like the Joker is better than those guys, you're gonna get so much pushback. So, and I don't care how much analytics you come up with, because analytics it can make a case for anything you want to say, basically. So, but when you have guys, like I said, and the league is changing, right? So, and the league is going back to the way it was back in the 90s, where you had to be in the 80s, and you had to be a two-way basketball player in order to have some success. And I see that change. I don't know if it's a cycle, but I see it going back to what it was in the 80s and the 90s, where you had to play defense. And if you look at OKC, they have so much firepower on that team that the team that beat them, the team that come up against them is going to have to be, you're going to have two-way players on your team. I think the Houston Rockets are a team that's going to give them a whole lot of problems because they're going to be able to match up with them on both sides of the ball. The Houston Rockets going to be able to match up with OKC on both sides of the ball. Because if you can't match up with them, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. So let me play what Skap said, and some of his argument for why OKC Shai, because he played for OKC, shouldn't be put ahead of the Joker.
Well, this is just getting absolutely ridiculous at this point. The Oklahoma City Thunder just won their 15th consecutive game to run their preposterous looking record to 23-1 with their most recent 131-101 demolition of the Utah Jazz in Utah last night. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that reigning league MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did not dress for this game? But wait, that isn't it, because joining SGA in the DNP category tonight was Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, and Alex Caruso, otherwise known as three of their best defenders, with Lou Dort making a first-team All-NBA honor last season, Alex Caruso being named first-team All-NBA defense in 2023, and Isaiah Hartenstein currently sitting as the number one rated net defender in the NBA this season. But again, no problem. Another 30-point evisceration by another team in Utah. And
so but do that speak to how weak Utah is, like the Utah Jazz, right? The Lakers beat Utah. Utah is just going around losing to everybody. So whether you're at full strength or not, Utah Jazz is just not a really good team. Now, don't get me wrong, OKC is loaded. They are loaded, but the leader on that loaded team is this kid Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But I don't think, they should hold it against him just because he's playing with some guys that I don't know if I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're gonna make the championship without him, but he is their guy.
Yes, I know the Utah Jazz aren't a particular powerhouse, but they did just beat the Houston Rockets like less than a week ago. And this 30-point beatdown wasn't even remotely that close. This game was a 25-point game at the end of the first quarter, 45-20. It was 74-48 at halftime. This game was over at the end of the first. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams led the way. Chet with 25 points on 12 of 15 shooting in only 22 minutes. And Jalen Williams with 25 as well on 11 of 19 in only 25 minutes. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Neither one played a single second in the fourth quarter. Yes, because SGA seemingly never plays in the fourth quarters. I think he sat out something like 12 of the 22 fourth quarters in the games that he's played this season to this point because they don't need him. This is why he isn't the league MVP. This is why he shouldn't have won the league MVP last year, and he absolutely isn't the MVP right now.
So because when he's in there, he's so efficient at what he do. Like most of the time, by the time they get to the fourth quarter, by the time OKC get to the fourth quarter, they don't even need Shai no more because Shai do all his work in the first three quarters. So they sit him down, because because they usually have a big lead. So that's good. And that's good coaching because you don't want him out there if he don't need to be out there, and then late into the season, he is a fresher basketball player. So that's good coaching.
Despite the fact he is a favor or a co-favorite with Nikola Jokic in many sports betting books. It's no disrespect to SGA. He is a fantastic player, arguably the second best player on earth, undeniably a top 3 league-wide player. But this team is absolutely stacked. Aaron Wiggins had 19 tonight off of the depleted Thunder bench, who had to move several of their key remaining bench players into the starting lineup. Kenrick Williams posted a plus 29 on the bench tonight. I don't even know who that is. He's played in 5 games only this season so far for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Every player is seemingly incredible and should be a starter on virtually any other NBA team. They go legitimately like 10 starters deep on.
I just think also too, you got to consider like they got really good coaching over there too in OKC, because if you can if it's the next man up, and then you got a guy coming off the bench that, like Skap said, you never even heard of, and then he performed to the level that where as though he ends up with 29 points. That's that's the system and that's coaching.
This team, and they all are absurd at defense. And I know, they rely so heavily on SGA offensively, except for they did shoot 58% from the field tonight without him, and 21 of 42 from behind the three-point line. SGA is one of the most efficient, smooth scorers we have seen this century. But again, the ask isn't that extreme here for him. There are other players in the NBA who have asked to be their only chore in an entire game, their only duty or responsibility is to get an efficient 30 and not worry about literally anything else. There are several different players in the NBA that can answer to that and complete that ask. And Shai.
All right, so so when he said players that can all they have to worry about is getting their 30, you talking about Luka Doncic, you talking about probably what's the guy name? Giannis. But Giannis, in my opinion, is a two-way ball player. Giannis really play. He's a good defender, right? But you talking about Luka and you talking about the Joker, they don't defend. They do not. They just refuse to defend, and they going. It's going to be hard when the league switches. When the league goes back to playing that old style of basketball, two-way basketball players become more and more prominent. It'd be hard for people to make this kind of silly argument, throwing the Joker in there as one of the greatest ever, somebody who should be MVP. It's gonna be so hard because you're gonna see guys playing both ends of the court, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to have some success. Like I said, anybody that want to be OKC, you gonna have to strap up and play defense. You're not gonna be able to outscore them on one end, and then they're gonna come down on the other end and defend you. So you're gonna have to play two-way basketball, and that's what exciting about. I like this about Detroit, right? That's what I like about the Houston Rockets, because they can play that style of basketball. The Boston Celtics, they look like they can play that style of basketball. So only way you're gonna be able to win. So when he's talking about these guys who just want to score on one end, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Basketball has always been the kind of sport up until like once Kobe left. Then you had the LeBron James era with him and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. It was so easy to score. You know, it's that they're gonna cut that out though. That's gonna come to a screeching halt. So that's my take on it. I don't feel like this guy. I don't.
All right, so Bill Simmons podcast.
I don't feel like the Joker. I mean, he's. I don't say that he shouldn't be in the MVP conversation, but it's hard to give somebody that's a one-way basketball player, MVP when so we'll see. That's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.